Hi, this is Christian. An encouragement to someone. Um, just want to share something little with you if you're seeing this video. Something to encourage you, but most importantly, to have you look within and probably understand life from a perspective. I was meditating on the story of Joseph with respect to his experience with Pharaoh, and of course it's a familiar story. You see where uh, he had a dream, and then shortly after the dream, of course, his brother sold him out, and there are so many lessons you can find there. Then after they sold him out, he ended up in Potiphar's house, and shortly after his arrival, or not too long, Potiphar did see some things in him that compelled Potiphar himself to entrust him with his resources. Now, his status as a servant did not change, but his lifestyle changed to a degree because of what he is able to do. So the first thing you notice there is that although Joseph may not have had the privilege of growing up back at home, and by the definition of life, had a very difficult life. But you get to realize that the kind of life that is befitting for someone in the office he was placed, which is of course slavery, is not the kind of life that he got. If you look at Daniel also, of course they captured the Israelites and then they ended up in Babylon, and the king said, go get me some guys from that place that have very excellent spirit, pretty good with math and science and everything. And so while Israel had been taken into captivity, and while in captivity, the king still needed some people from the tribe of Israel who could play a role in his government to ensure that his reign is not just like any other one, but impactful to the people of Babylon. And so that's where the selection thing came in. Now, they chose Daniel. They chose, what was the other one? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But there were many other kids. So, although they were all in captivity, but the kind of life Daniel and his colleagues enjoyed, the other ones may not have enjoyed it, because there was something about those guys that gave them the opportunity. So take note of this. The enemy that is targeting you, the enemy that is wishing you everything you pray against, when he finally gets to realize that you carry something inside of him that makes him better, his hatred for you will be put aside, because what he seeks is greater than his pride. Let me bring something else. When Satan fell from heaven, of course he fell to earth, and it was, a terrible life for him. Not much was said about him until man came. Although Satan hates man, but for the sake of what he can become through man, he kept his pride aside to do business with man. It means there must be something that Adam carries that is greater than the pride of Satan. I want you to get the message. There is something that Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego carried that was greater than the pride of Nebuchadnezzar at the time. So it means, when you go to capture people and take them from their homes, it's because you intend to use them for, in the book of Romans, the Bible said, because you have refused to retain God in your knowledge, you've been handed over to a reprobate mind to do those things that are not convenient, and so on and so forth. So when the enemy takes you from your camp, he's not taking you to his house to do the things that are convenient. He's taking you there to do the things that are not convenient. Let's establish that. So Israel moving from their primary place that God gave to the land of Babylon is not to take milk and honey. That's another thing. When God promised Israel that I'll take you to the land of milk and honey, there's something I want you to pick from there. I hope I don't forget why we started this anyways. There's so much to be said. I try to keep this just very brief. I just want to show you a bit of perspective so you get to see, basically, if I'm to give this a title, I'll say the advantage of a believer in perilous times. The advantage of a believer in perilous time. That's what I'll call this. And so, what was I saying? I think I lost that one. Anyways, so coming back to the story of Daniel, we'll get back to the story of Joseph eventually. So like I said, now, although the Israelites were taken into captivity, and the whole idea is to make sure they do the things that are not convenient, but you get to realize that even though they were in captivity, there were some people that did not live as captives. That the intention of the enemy is to take you captive. But there's something inside of you that if he discovers, he will not keep you captive. And then I went back to tell you guys that although Satan hates man, but he had to put his pride aside in order to do business with man, because there's something he seeks that only man can give. And since he has lost his place with God, and we are created in the image of God, there's a tendency he can find relevance in true man. So Satan is seeking relevance through man. And so when a man is unable to realize who he is, he submits completely to Satan, not knowing that Satan's relevance is dependent on the existence of the man. All right. So now, although the Israelites didn't have the best of life, let's go back to the story of Esther. If you look at the case of Esther, the Jews didn't have the best life. However, there's something that Hadassah, Esther, carried that the wife of Ahasuerus at the time didn't have. And so when he threw the other wife away, he wanted someone else. And of all the women he encountered, Hadassah stood out, which means there's something inside of her that the king saw. And although a king normally want to marry from his place, but he didn't mind marrying someone from the tribe they had captured, so long as it helps his government. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So now, there's something Esther carried. So when you now return back to the case of Daniel, although they were in captivity, but they didn't live as captives. The other people lived as captives because if they had what Daniel had, most likely they wouldn't live in that state. So, life will intentionally, that's how people put it. They said life is not fair, but that's not true. Life is life. It is your action in life that defines your status. Life on its own is nebulous. It is your action in life that defines your status. It is your submission to principles that define your status. It is your belief in yourself through God himself. He said, if you believe, all things are possible to them that believe. That although the enemy have taken you captive, but there is something inside of you that even the enemy himself will put his pride aside and want to do business with you. So when the Bible said the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous, it doesn't mean you sit down there and say, Father, let them die so their wealth will come. No, that there is a substance that is deposited inside of you. Now, watch this. The Bible said, for I have given you the power to make wealth. So when God makes that kind of declaration, it means there's a responsibility. There's a role you must play in order to attract or command the wealth that you've been empowered to command. Because as far as you're dealing with God is concerned, he said you will not lack bread. He didn't say you will not lack wealth. That it is possible that you're a child of God and the best you can get is bread. The people that were in captivity, the best of their hard work could command bread. But Daniel was sitting at the gate of the king, and he was the president of all the other senior officers. Although Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were all part of the captives, but they also had a role to play. They didn't live as captives. Just because your reason is justified doesn't mean that you accept that life. I was born into a poor family. We understand. I have tried my best and nothing is working. We understand. God knows how hard I am working, but if you're working hard, the laborer is worthy of his wages. Our reasons are genuine. That is why we are able to sleep at night. But it is not a justification for the things we hope for. Our reasons are genuine. So we are able to sleep at night. And maybe sometimes out of depression, we don't even get to sleep at all. But however genuine your reason is, it is never a justification for what you are hoping for. For there is something that must be seen inside of you for the things you hope for to find you easily. It means what you are hoping for is with somebody else. So when Jesus grew in stature, the Bible says he found favor with God. He also found favor with men. So now, when you return back to the story of Joseph, what I wanted to talk about is a bit different. But I had to mention this part because the story is all connected somehow. Are you currently in Babylon? Is Nebuchadnezzar making a decree? Are you among the people who by the uncertainty of life and the perspective and definition of men have concluded that nothing good can find you? I'm literally telling you that things don't find you until you become what those things are looking for. Take note, things don't find you until you become what those things are looking for. That if mankind were to be a sheep or a lion, Satan will not go and tempt that kind of person. There were many creatures alive, but Satan chose man. It's because of what is deposited in the man. That there are many people around you, but the reason your friend is chosen is because of what he carries. Don't envy men when you can pay the price for what they carry. Oh, I am weak. Who told you so? You call yourself born again and you say you are weak? Man is able to carry God, which means there's nothing in life that you cannot face. No matter how heavy the situation is, God weighs more than your situation, and you are able to carry him. He said, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. So let me explain that part and I'll get to the story of Joseph. Come unto me, O ye that labor, heavy laden and everything, I will give you rest. So if you labor, of course, there's either your ignorance or disobedience. Something is playing a role. Someday I'll teach the law of favor. There are 5 major pillars that I think if you're able to put in place, the probability that you are going to gain favor with men is 100%. When you find a man praying for favor, the prayer is not wrong. But if he's praying for favor and it's taking too long, those pillars are not in place yet. How you are perceived is your responsibility. But that's not what I am talking about. So the Bible said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Spell that light, L-I-G-H-T. All right, great. So it means if you take God's weight, your eye will see. Men only walk towards what they can see. So when you take God's weight, your eye is opened. Then number 2, you become a light. That's why the Bible says, ye are the light of the world. So it means you must shine to a degree to attract someone from a distance. The greatest desire of a man in the dark is sunrise, because with the rising sun comes every possibility. God did not design you to see in the dark. And so what that means for you is that if you carry light, darkness cannot exist at all. But that's not what I am talking about. So he said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. The easiest way to now become light is to actually hear God. All right? Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. So the word of God is light unto men. What's the secret to becoming light? Talk less when you go before God and hear more. When you go before God, your mouth is not as important as your ear. And when you leave God's presence, when I say leave God's presence, I'm not saying you leave God. Because there's a time you spend with Him, then there's a time where you have to obey what He has said in Him. So you are constantly with God, but there's a time for hearing, there's a time for implementation of instruction. So when you go before God, your mouth is not as important as your ear. When you go to the field, your ear is not as important as your mouth. Understand what I am saying correctly. When you go before God, your mouth is not as important as your ear, because the gift for hearing is sight. If only you can hear, you will see. If you're unable to hear, you will not see. So when you go before God and you're unable to see, it means you didn't hear Him. For the word of God is light unto men, and the beauty of light is the ability it gives, and that is sight. Men only walk towards what they can see. Be a light. So your mouth is not as important as your ear when you are before God. So when you go before Him, just quickly express your gratitude and just shut up for once and let Him speak. That if what you are saying can solve the problem, you will not have gone to His place in the first place. Most times we are too emotional and sentimental when we go before God. We want to use 3 hours to tell Him how this thing is really paining us. Meanwhile, you don't understand one thing, that what you go through, it cannot move God. What you are facing cannot move God. He is touched by the fact that you are facing it. But if that thing can move Him, then that thing weighs more than Him. So meanwhile, I said, if you're able to carry God, then you can lift anything, because God weighs more than everything. And yet you can carry Him, because salvation gives you the strength to carry God officially. That's the definition of salvation. Having the life of Christ. Revelation chapter 3 verse 20 said, behold, I stand at the door and I knock. If any man and open the door, I will come in, I will sup with him and he with me. So it means when God comes, He pays the bill. I can't come to your house as a struggling individual and watch you go to the market shop and I sit down and wait to eat. That's not going to happen. By my character, my upbringing, that's not going to happen. By how much I I have been blessed by God. I will contribute to the degree my ability can command, making life easy for you. That singular action is the reason you want me to stay as long as I want to stay. You know, some of you, when you go to visit people, because you have drunk the water of, and you are drunk with the wine of entitlement. You strongly believe that anyone that opens the door is supposed to feed you, clothe you, do everything for you because you are the son of the Most High. If you are really the son, you're a contributor. You are not a liability. Sons are contributors, not liability. Any person that is unable to contribute is a child. And the Bible said the child does not differ from a slave so long as he's a child. So your inability to contribute is why you'll be treated as a slave. So when people begin to show you attitude, no man is wicked. Just become a burden to a man's economy and you see a beast coming out of him by default. Some of you lack the spirit of gratitude. What does it take to show gratitude genuinely? That somebody shows you kindness and you have the ability to play a different role in the person's life. But because you believe you are an offering box, always receiving and never giving, you intentionally will not play that role and hope that that person will have a revelation of you in the future. It's not possible. That's not going to happen. Because you have refused to retain God in your knowledge, you've been handed over to a reprobate mind to do those things that are not convenient. Whew. When you leave God's presence, is because you are going to obey what He said. It means you never leave His presence until there's an instruction you need to execute. That thing you are going to execute that He didn't say, you have to pay for it. And because you are unable to pay, it looks like life is not fair. Every man that you admire answers to an altar. You need one. That in the public they look like Alpha and Omega, boasting with all of their human pride. But in the night, they lie down flat and say, I am nothing without my source. But you're a neutral man. Revelation 3:19 said, because you are lukewarm, I will spew you out of my mouth. As many as I love, I will rebuke and chasten. Be zealous therefore and repent. That's what the Bible said. I usually don't do this often. I hope that pretty soon I will be able to do it as much as possible. But this is supposed to be an encouragement to someone. When you leave God's presence to obey or implement His instruction, your ear is not as important as your mouth. Why? Because everything you said is what you heard. So when you go before God, shut up and listen. Because for every time you are talking while God is talking, there's a mix-up somewhere. So you return and then you are sharing a perspective that God didn't instruct. But when you come to execute, it is the only thing you hear that you say. This is why you have to be careful with what you give your ear to. That if you give your attention to negativity, things have to be difficult as proof that you gave your attention to something. So your reality is only a manifestation of what you give your attention to. You can't blame life. Nigeria is difficult. That's your confession. And whatever you say will come to pass. You just don't know it yet. Nigeria is impossible. People are hungry. Look at how we are dying. I cannot even afford to make money. That's what you said. I cannot afford to make money. And because you cannot lie, truthfully, your finances will dry up. Not because they were meant to dry, but because your words must come to pass. But what you listened to is why your confession is negative. It means when you spend all of your days in the house of faith, the only thing you know how to move is mountain. I will repeat. When you spend all of your days in the house of faith, the only thing you know how to move is mountains. But when mountains begin to move a man, understand that he gave his ear to something different. I've spent 24 minutes, but what I really wanted to talk about, I didn't even get to talk about it again. This is usually how it's like. It's just a foundation. I will not talk more than 30 minutes. let's now get back to why I even started all of this. I'm just trying to encourage someone, and I said, however difficult the time is. So now, it means God gives Goshen to sons when Pharaoh refuses to submit to the son. God gives Goshen to sons when Pharaoh refuses to what? Submit to the voice of the son, or something like that. So you can be Goshen in Egypt. Now, what is affecting the nation? That however difficult the situation may be, and I'll tell you this, many people believe there are no jobs. That's not true. There are jobs. But you have been trained and conditioned to be dependent. There is a job you are looking for where you just need to show them that you currently have a degree, and they give you a seat under air condition to take selfie. Those jobs don't exist. But if you can show a man how his 10 million can become 15, you'll be amazed with the office he'll give you immediately. That we are currently in the dispensation now where only contributors will have a seat on the table. Don't blame the system for what it is. The system is meant to be what it is so that sons can be announced. The system is meant to be what it is so that sons can be announced. For too long, slaves have been riding on horses. Don't worry. The season is coming when that will be in the past. I remember writing a song, when I come before your presence. Give me the grace to be silent in your presence. 'Cause all I need is my ear and not my tongue. So when I speak, the words are yours and not mine. Speak the word is blind, and you are the light. The best of man will fail without your presence. The best of you is more than enough. Fit like a monster is all I need. The world is blind and you are the light. Now, coming back to the story of Joseph, so I can conclude in a few minutes. God gave a gift to Joseph. Joseph had a gift, but he lacked the resources and the capacity to solve national problems. That the gift that Joseph possessed is not for common men, but is meant to address national matters. Now, but Joseph as a person is not in a position where his gift can find relevance. So, God gives the dream to the one with the power, but keeps Joseph as the point of contact so that he can be entrusted with the job. So the guy with the gift is Joseph. The man that had the dream is the one that has the power to execute if he can find the right interpreter. So if God had given the dream of 7 years of famine to Joseph, the tendency that Pharaoh will listen is almost zero. I want you to understand something. That it is not all the time that God will give you the dream. God can give the dream to somebody that may not even have a relationship with him. But you will think that because the man does not have a relationship with God, God will not give him a dream. Why do you think that way? Jesus said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's. It means Christ acknowledged the office of man on earth. That's what it means. So when he paid that tax, he's actually acknowledging that the government is legitimate. So now it means if you stand up in rebellion against the government, you will be killed, you end up in heaven, but you never fulfilled your mission on earth. I don't like the president, we understand, But so long as he has been sworn into power, the best you can do is what? Father, give him the heart for the nation. You don't say, Father, kill this man. He's a stupid person in Jesus' name. But you realize that your confession must come to pass. So the nation needs to be difficult because that's what you said in your secret place. There's power in the tongue. Now, Joseph had the gift, but the dream did not go to the man with the gift because he did not have the power and the resources to implement. Now, if Joseph had said, take me to Pharaoh, for I have a dream that will save Egypt, Pharaoh does not have a relationship with God to accept the dream of Joseph. Because from his own realm, he has all of these soothsayer and everybody. So when you walk up to Pharaoh and say, there will be 7 years of famine, Pharaoh will say, what is wrong with this young boy? Take him out of my presence. That although Daniel had the power to interpret a dream, but God will give the dream to Nebuchadnezzar instead. It means that sometimes the people that you call unrighteous are still the same people God will use to announce you because they have the platform. Somebody will say, don't be unequally yoked with unbeliever. The guy that paid you salary is not born again. Why are you working for him? You know, sometimes we study scriptures and we try to interpret it to suit our poverty, but that's the problem. Let me not use the word poverty and this video begins to trend negatively. So now when things don't work for you, everybody that God is blessing becomes an enemy. There's no way you make an enemy of a system and you tap into the secret of that system. It's not possible. The moment a system perceives you as an enemy, it will do everything within its power to keep the secret for his strength away from you. When you see a man who you should submit to for prosperity, you say, it's God that prospers men. That's true. But when we go through scriptures, the Bible says, and you will make your way prosperous. Number 1, he said, believe in his prophet, you prosper. Number 2, I have given you the power to make wealth. Number 3. So don't hold God by the neck when he have said, go and meet that man. Whoever God have sent you to follow, if you refuse to follow that man, God will find somebody else and you will die a poor man. The first thing you should do as a graduate or a matured human being is to find somebody you submit to who by virtue of patience have obtained the promise that makes for your dream. So his instructions becomes law unto you, for you will meditate on it and obey it 100% without question. Because the songwriter said, trust and obey, there's no other way. If God sends me to you to learn science, I don't care if you follow 1,000 women or whatever. It doesn't matter your character. Whoever is available to play the role, God didn't say go and follow his faith. He said go and learn science. But when you go to the person and realize, this person is smoking cigarette, I'm not sure it's God that sent me to this person. You wait, you will sit down and you will perish. It is you that call them sinners. Everything that exists on earth, God can use it to fulfill his will, even Satan himself. God can use anything to fulfill his will. But you now, you are selecting who God should use by your template of what you call righteousness. And the Bible now said that your righteousness is as filthy rag. And the Bible said obedience is greater than sacrifice. That although you walk before God wearing rags to show him how much you have suffered for the kingdom. And he said, no, the guy that obeys is more valuable than you that walked. If God says sit down in this place and listen to this man for 5 years, and then you stand up and go to the field and say souls are perishing, I cannot sit down. And for that 5 years you win 1,000 souls, and then you suffer and you are hungry and you are famished and whatever, no matter how you define your suffering, understand this: obedience is greater than sacrifice. The first thing that God weighs is not your sacrifice. If God is going to judge our spiritual standing and stature by sacrifice, then the men we call the fathers of faith have finished all of the resources in heaven already. because you can't beat their record. They have the finances, the resources, they organize crusade, win millions of souls at once. But it's not the quantity, it's actually that they are obeying. Because if God gave them that instruction, they will be rewarded for the obedience, not for the works. God is testing your obedience. So if God tells you, sit down here for 5 years, in that 5 years, of course, wherever God says you should stay there. If he says, listen to this man for 5 years, just listen to the man. If the trumpet sound before the 5 years and you go before God, you will be rewarded for your obedience. For the master said, wait. If I'm walking out of the office and I tell my staff, sit down here till I come, and he stands up to go out and say, I went to do marketing for you, the tendency he will lose his job is very high. I know marketing is necessary, but I said, sit down and wait. You didn't care to know if I had a reason for telling you to wait. But understand that the man that gives the instruction, it is not to his benefit, it is to yours. When you understand that the instruction of God is for your benefit, you spend time more in his presence. But whether you are the prodigal or the legitimate, you are loved by God, but your circumstance on earth is a function of what you give your attention to. I have gone past my time and I haven't even started yet, but I must stop now. As I bring this to a conclusion, this is what I have for you. You're a consequence of yesterday, but today is a gift to start again. If you are too old to start again, don't pray for long life. If you feel life have gone past you, then die tomorrow, die this night. But the reason God still gave you today and hopefully tomorrow is because you can start again from the beginning. Time does not matter, it is light that matters. Which is why a boy of 15 can command a man of 70. In the realm of light, time bows. A man will tell you, do you know how old I am? That's because you are not shining yet. If you carry a light that is superior to what he carries, he never brings his age into that transaction. He will submit to your grace 1,000 times. It's pretty late in the night already. I gotta go. I decree that you guys are blessed, but most importantly, I hope you're able to listen. Have a great night, and probably I'll make another video again. Bye.